Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Stable Podcast, part 3, and our final part of playing GM of the Indianapolis Colts. The first 2 parts were really fun. Landon had great signings. He had a great draft. I myself was a little bit more controversial. By the way, thank you to everybody who left a comment under our main page's post about the graphics. I loved every single bit of it, even if you hated it. I loved it. I love every single one of you guys. Thank you for keeping me entertained. And for some of you who are sending me DMs and everything, just study up on some of these players and learn why they would be great for us. But anyways, guys, I think we're going to have a guy tonight that's going to show up both me and Landon. All right. Marcus is up, a.k.a. Coltureshock. Y'all know him on Twitter as Coltureshock. I'm interested to see it. But before we jump into him and the goodness, praise God, thank you for see if he gives us goodness. Landon, before we jump into this, man, how are you feeling? How's the week been?
It's been good, just not really much news going on, not really a lot to talk about, and I'm just ready for this draft to be here, but I'm excited. The boy Coltureshock coming through tonight, hopefully a little less controversial than the previous one, hopefully a little milder, but nonetheless fun. Exciting. I know he's got some good stuff in store for us. I know he's done his homework. He's coming prepared, ready to let loose. So I'm excited to see what's going on. Ready for a good night.
Oh my gosh, less controversial. It was only one move that was controversial. But anyways, guys, Marcus, before we jump into this, you have two people went up before you, me and Landon. Do you feel pressure to build a team right now? Do you feel pressure, or do you know you're just about to smoke us?
Listen, I'm going to tell you like this. The only reason the Colts brought me in is because you two couldn't get your jobs done. That's why I was the last person, because I'm the guy. They called me. They got rid of you two because you wasn't good enough. Mike got stoned to death. Landon was all right, but they were like, we could do without him. So they took the risk and got Coltureshock as the GM. So you know what? I'm gonna play GM today. That's what we're gonna do.
Damn! First time in NFL history a team has gone through 3 GMs in a month. That's insane. All right. Well, you know what? Let's get straight into it. Marcus, blow us away. Play GM of the Indianapolis Colts. The floor is yours.
All right. So.
Real quick. Just didn't want to cut you off. If you are listening on all platforms, make sure you give this a like, thumbs up, comment down below if it's on Twitter, Facebook, if it's on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe if you support the Blue Stable. It really helps us out. We appreciate you. We love you. And again, chat down below, leave a comment. Now, Marcus, officially, the floor is yours.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GM edition of Coltureshock version of Running the Colts. But before we get into it, you see the bottom banner, it says the website for the Blue Stable. We got good articles, we got podcast links, all those good things. Please follow us on those platforms and check us out so you guys can stay entertained. But without further ado, let's hop into it. So the first thing we're going to discuss is the franchise tag, in which the Colts, I would say they're not really a fan of those things. When you look at the talent we have, we can do without it, right? So I'm not even going to use the franchise tag. I'm just going to keep it moving. So no franchise tag this year. We're just gonna skip it. Call it a spade a spade. If you play your work for contract, you'll get a contract. So let's move on. So now let's get into the good part, the cutting session. Who are we gonna cut from the Indianapolis Colts? Landon had himself. He cuts a few players. I agree with. Michael cut a few players. He cut one of those guys that's not gonna be on my list, which is unfortunate. But here's my list right here. So, the cuts. I got to cut Matt Ryan. I'm sorry, Matt Ryan. You know what I'm saying? You did your due diligence. You did what you had to do. Unfortunately, it just did not pan out the way you wanted it to be. And, you just had to go. So, we cut Matt Ryan. And we cut Nick Foles, who's another quarterback that just couldn't pan out to the situation at hand. Because we got to get rid of the old, right? We got to get rid of the old. We want some young, fresh talent, gel together. We got a new head coach, Shane Steichen. just get off a Super Bowl run with the Philadelphia Eagles, has a very nice scheme. So we got to get rid of some of these old people. And then we got to get rid of Ryan Kelly. We all love Ryan Kelly, right? But I feel like the new regime of the offensive line needs a little bit more reconstruction, and we need a little bit more structure than what we usually get. So Ryan Kelly is on the end of his stick. I'm pretty sure he could find some talent elsewhere. And any other, he can land anywhere. It's possible. He's a Pro Bowler. He's Ryan Kelly. He knows what he needs to do. But I think he needs to go to a new system, and it's not going to be no longer here in Indianapolis, which is unfortunate. So we got to let him go. So now we get into the good part. Wait, Mike, do you have a question?
So, like, I don't. This is not my thing. Did you happen to leave somebody off? I just want to make sure that you're good with the list. Like, you didn't leave anybody off. You didn't, like, forget. You were in a jam. You didn't forget somebody like that. That tries to play tight end and fails miserably. Like,
no, I didn't forget anybody. No.
I just needed to make sure.
Landon, did I forget anybody?
You could have went a little deeper, but I see where you're going with this. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay, hey, continue. It's not over. This is just the beginning.
So again, with great responsibility come these tasks when you got to make some sacrifices. You got to do what you got to do. Me not getting rid of Marley Cox, I'm going out on a limb here, giving him another shot. And I'm starting to think of this thing with young potential. You get a quarterback that you can actually develop chemistry with. You get a head coach that knows what to do with tight ends. I feel like he can probably get the best out of Marley Cox.
Hey, Tom Manning as well, back in the building.
Yes, sir.
Great year we had with him as a tight end coach, 2018, turned Eric Ebron into a Pro Bowler.
Little hands himself.
14 touchdowns. Come on. Yep. So, you're
man.
trusting Tom Manning to develop these guys. I'm down with it.
Thank you. See, I knew it was a man of the culture himself.
It was 15 touchdowns, but yeah. Aaron Marley Cox, here we go. Resurgence. Here we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, we're going to use him effectively next season. So stay tuned for that. So now we're going to get to the good part, which is signing some players. So, of course, we got to let Bobby Okereke go, right? And it's not as big of a sacrifice as we expect. We know he was a tremendous talent. And what he done with Shaquille Leonard being out and his role and his development and his position, he deserves every penny, but he just can't get it from me. I'm going to let him go. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But we're going to bring in some talent. So we bring it back Paris Campbell, first of all, because Paris Campbell showed himself to stay healthy. So we're going to give him a contract. It's not going to be a great contract, but it's going to be a prove-it contract. So prove your worth. You stayed healthy, but can you continue to stay healthy? So shout out to him for staying healthy and putting on a good season. A pretty decent season enough coming off an injury in which he really couldn't get over that hump, but he did. So we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring back Yannick as well. Now, Yannick is very familiar with Gus Bradley and his scheme, and I feel like if you give him another year with that scheme and that development of what we got building, I feel like he can have something going, especially with Kwity Paye coming back. And, you want to have continuity on each side of the field. And if you keep these guys that have some type of development and can build with it, I feel like you can go a long way with that talent. EJ Speed was a dog last year, and he's a guy that had a tremendous journey in the NFL. So I have to bring him back as well because he's a good talent that you want on that linebacker group. And a lot of people was like, you know what? If we get rid of Bobby Okereke or if Shaquille Leonard will never stay healthy, I'm pretty sure EJ Speed can still take over like what he did last year. So we got to bring EJ Speed back for sure. And especially if you pair him with Shaquille Leonard when he's fully healthy after what he said, taking the procedures out all season, and he's going to come back full strength. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like. So we got to bring him back. We got to bring back a consistent kicker. Finally, thank goodness. We found a miracle in Chase McLaughlin, Adam Vinatieri's son. So we shout out to him for bringing him back for sure. He got a contract. It ain't going to be nothing too crazy because he's a kicker. So it is what it is at the end of the day. And again, like I mentioned, we had to bring back Marley Cox. We mentioned Tom Manning. We mentioned Shane Steichen. We mentioned the development with the QB building that chemistry. I feel like he can start to fully mesh into becoming a full tight end. Now, he didn't start off as a tight end because he was a basketball player, but I feel like with the years of experience as a tight end now in the NFL, he has to develop some type of route work or hands or development in general. With his height, I feel like he can have some type of potential moving forward. So we got to bring back Molly Cox. And, shout out to
Well,
Mike and Landon. Huh?
no, I was gonna say Mo Ali Cox. He actually isn't a free agent, so he's still under contract for like another I think 2 years.
Hmm.
So I don't think you. I mean, you wouldn't sign him, but you are keeping him.
Yeah,
You're
bringing him
keeping
back.
him around. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I mean, he could have made him a free agent, but
I
No,
mean,
Mike.
technically, if you really wanted to do it right, whenever you have him under the signings, you could extend him. You could give him
Now
an
that
extension.
Mike will walk off the camera if I did that.
continue.
All right. So shout out to Wally Cox. Um, Shout out to Mike as well and Landon for bringing in Brandon Graham and Andre Dillard. Those are two fantastic signings I think could definitely boost this team on both sides of the field. But I gotta get another guy. We got rid of Matt Ryan and Nick Foles. I gotta get my dog Gardner Minshew, right? Like what? Who would not want Gardner Minshew on their roster? Like, have you seen this guy? Look, get a load of this. Look at this beauty. What would you not on? You won't want him on your roster? Look, there's two words for you: ticket sales. This dude can do it, especially with a guy. We got Shane Steichen, his former offensive coordinator, so he has some type of familiarity already with the system. And if anything goes bad, if you need to bring in a vet, I don't know about y'all, but I will definitely volunteer bringing in Gardner Minshew for a few snaps because he knows the system, he knows the playbook, and meshing him with a rookie talent and who I'm about to draft and which I'm going to show y'all. I think this could be a very good QB room that we haven't seen in a while since Jacoby Brissett. So I'm definitely volunteering and bringing in Gardner Minshew as a backup QB, the vet we all want. The guy, the mullet man, the mustache. He's just a phenomenal player. He's not even the greatest guy, but he's just good looking. So I gotta have him on the roster. So moving forward, I got Bradley Bozeman as the former Panthers center, just the vet center because we got rid of Ryan Kelly, and he doesn't really cost you much. With the base minimum contract is about $5 million or something like that. It's a little bit of money you can spend for a vet to develop these backup centers until maybe you can draft a center or maybe you can have one already on the roster, but you can fully develop him under Bradley that knows something about a little bit of offensive trenches football. If you want a center, I think you can go get him, bring him in for a little bit, train up the rooks or the young guys, and then fully mesh them moving forward. So I'm bringing in Bradley just as maybe a backup piece for now. So, but he's not going to be a long-term deal. So I'm only going to get him probably 1 year contract. But for sure, I think he could be a pretty decent piece to replace Ryan Kelly that we just got rid of. But before we move forward, I want to ask Michael Landon if you guys have any objections to any of these signings besides Molly Cox, Mike.
No, man, I like it. Obviously, me and Landon went with Andre Dillard. I got Brandon Graham in. He's going to be a good leader. Him and Quiddy can play to defend the run, but Brandon Graham can still rush the passer solid. He's a leader. Andre Dillard, bring more competition. I like the Bosman signing, bring more competition. If that's a theme in any of our series, it's adding to the offensive line. I'm perfect with with our re-signings. My only question, and we were talking about this earlier, what would your ideal contract be given to Paris Campbell? What would you give him?
Well, I have to look at what the wide receiver market is going to look like in free agency because we've seen what the market happened when the Jaguars just blew it up and collapsed the whole market. So I think if you match what the offer is for the highest wide receiver and Paris Campbell is healthy, I would probably give him a little less than what the wide receiver is getting right there. So for example, if the top wide receiver is probably getting like 20 mil, I would give Paris maybe 8 to 10. I would say that would be a pretty decent deal for Paris Campbell to come back for sure.
8 to 10 annually?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's where I would disagree. 8 to 10 is just too much for a player that hasn't. That this is just my opinion. I don't want to talk too much, but yeah, that's a solid. Obviously, for him, that would be a great contract. Would you do 1 year or multi-year?
I would probably do a 2 year deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like a 2 year, 18 million or 2 year, $20 million deal.
Yes, sir.
Not bad. That's good for Paris, though. That's good money.
All right, and we're gonna go to Landon.
Yeah, I can dig it all. I can see a path for every one of these guys to contribute to the roster. So, Bradley Bozeman, I think, is a pretty good signing that I hadn't really had in my mind. So,
Yes.
because I kept Ryan Kelly, so I wasn't really looking for the centers. But yeah, I think it would be good competition to bring in. Obviously, you got Danny Pinter back there as well. So
Mm-hmm.
those two guys could kind of compete in the offseason for that role. Same with Andre Dillard and Bernard Ryman. Love Gardner Minshew. I would be super excited if that dude was a Colt. Um,
Yes.
and then, like I said, Brandon Graham, like I like it and I can see it, especially because you can never have too many pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
But between like him and Yannick, that's going to end up being a lot of money. Plus, you got these two young guys. You don't kind of wait in with Dio and Quiddy Fay as well. So really, it would just kind of depend on the money for those contracts because I think Brandon Graham and Quiddy Pay play a very similar role. Like I said, like they're not like tier one pass rush guys, but they're like really strong about like setting the edge, stopping the run. They're probably going to give you, 5 to 10 sacks a year. Um, so I mean, yeah, like you can never have too many pass rushers. It would really just depend on the contracts because I think between both those guys, that's a pretty penny, to shell out.
Yeah, for sure. And we ain't done with pass rushing because when I got to show y'all, boy, oh boy, it's gonna
Oh
be
man,
funny. Let's go to the comment section real quick. Shout out to Will. He said Yannick doesn't play the run. How about getting the DA that plays the run and the pass? Well,
that's
we got
that's what
Brandon.
Brandon Graham does.
We got Brandon, so I'm pretty sure he
I
can
don't know if he,
replace
I don't
what
know
we
if he really
missing.
plays the pass. I don't want my defensive ends playing the pass.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
gotta
like
split those
that's
reps up, man.
that's one of the most annoying things to me is whenever I have a defensive end like an edge rusher, instead of going after the quarterback, he's back playing like zone coverage, and I'm like, why? Like why?
Yeah.
Like just let him go. Let him go get the quarterback.
Hey, remember when Matt Eberflus sent Grover frickin' Stewart into coverage against a running back?
Yep. What a time.
How did
What a
how
guy.
did that
What a
how did
guy,
that
huh?
turn out?
That man got a head coaching job, so
Yeah.
By the way, friend of the show, Matt
Yes.
Eberflus, friend
Yes.
like
Very
personal
nice guy.
friend of mine. Yeah, super nice guy.
Yes.
Great guy. Very lovely to talk to. I appreciated the time I got to spend with him. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, shout out Matt Eberflus.
best
Yes.
friend, Senior Bowl,
Hey.
chow
Yes.
down.
He's a
Mm-hmm.
he's a
Came,
good dude, man.
came over to the Airbnb, made him some tacos, and
All right.
They didn't
hey,
make tacos. They
hey,
didn't
I'm
make no
jealous though. I'm
tacos.
jealous though.
Yeah. It was a fun moment. So now we gotta hop into the very fun part of my GM mode. The NFL draft. So Mike got rid of Jonathan Taylor. Landon had a superb draft, but I'm going to give credit to Mike because Mike had a good draft too. It was just the Jonathan Taylor and Kenny Moore thing. I was just like, I mean, I understand Kenny Moore, but Jonathan Taylor, like, you're just flat out crazy. So
Oh, so you're not
we have.
doing any trades?
Let me get to it.
Oh,
So first of all, I want to say I did my draft with PFF. I cheated. I just want to say that because PFF will put some players on there that's not supposed to be there selected in the rounds. But boy, did that stop me? Absolutely not. I was like, if this can happen, oh, we go to the Super Bowl. So I did my draft with PFF. But before I show y'all the pictures, I'm just going to go off names that I got. And this was a first time, first instincts draft. So the first pick, the Indianapolis Colts select CJ Stroud from Ohio State University. And look, when I was like, oh, they passed up on CJ and got Bryce, even though we know that's probably going to happen anyway, but I hope it does because I'm knocking on wood. I hope they do that because we can get Stroud and Anthony Richardson. So I got Stroud as my first pick. Moving forward in the draft, my second pick was the 35th round, was the second round 35th pick. I got Ohio State's very own tackle, Dawand Jones. I picked him up. I was like, if I can get him and he's available, oh, sign me up. The wingspan of that guy, we seen him at the Senior Bowl. Of course, he didn't actually really practice, but the fact that he was there in his presence, I was like, yes, I need him on my
Dang. So
roster.
so so hold on. Where are you kicking here? Are you kicking Brandon Smith inside the guard?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we making moves out here, right? So if
Okay.
anything, if the worst case scenario, if somebody has to move, we can replace because Braden Smith is versatile. He can go inside and out. But if we draft Dewan, we can get him to start. I feel like there's a little bit more protection for our rookie CJ Stroud to step into his own, especially with the Shane Steichen offense. This is looking good for the Colts moving forward because we need all the talent we need next year with this division.
Not just for CJ Stroud. Jonathan Taylor had a rough year due to bad offensive line play. So if he's going to step behind that offensive line, sign me up.
Like you don't need to trade him after all, huh, Mike?
Well, when you make those signings and everything, well, we got into that last week. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't have a problem with Mike trading Jonathan Taylor. It's not the trading of Jonathan Taylor. It's what you got.
The package.
It's the package, bro.
No Bijan Robinson.
Oh Lord.
Oh, was Bijan on the board at this second round pick?
I don't know. I was so flabbergasted with what was available. I just clicked it. I didn't even look.
I can tell you no. I can tell you no.
He was on the top of the list. I seen Dewan, so I was like, yep, I'm getting him. So, moving forward. Third round, 79th pick. I had to do it. I got my boy. I took a risk. I got my boy from Cincy, Tyler Scott, for my third round pick at wide receiver. He was there, so I was like, let's do it. So I was thinking, I was like, we missing Naheem Hines. Paris Campbell if he can't stay healthy or some worst case scenario happens, we got Tyler Scott. He can do that. That is him. You put him in that system with CJ Stroud and Shane. Come on, man. With the protection, Tyler can look like T.Y. Hilton Jr. out there. Probably even better, but that's just me. So moving forward, we got to go to the fourth round, 106 pick. I had to get me another edge rusher, but I got a rare one. I got Louisville air rusher Yaya Dibey. He was available, but I picked him up. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. We moving in this draft. So I picked him up as a secondary edge rusher. I thought he would be a good pickup.
I can see a trend going here where you got CJ Stroud and you got athletic freak.
Yeah,
I see a trend.
We ain't done. We still moving. So I had to pick up another edge rusher, just like I said. Worst case scenario, you can never have enough, like Mike mentioned earlier. So I wound up drafting another one that has to be another freak of nature. So I was like, you know what? Put him on the board. Let's draft him. And he was available. So moving to the fifth round, got me another special gem that we happened to see. Fifth round pick, 140th pick. I got me a corner. I went out and got a corner. But it's not just any corner. He actually turned a few heads at the combine. I went and got Ja'Cory Bennett from Maryland. I picked him up from the draft. He was a fifth round pick. He was available. So I was like, you know what? He had a pretty decent combine and he's still available. Let's get him. So I picked up Ja'Cory Bennett. I do need another corner, just being as though, the guy from last year, I don't want to say his name. He was pretty bad. So if we have to step in another corner and give Isaiah Rodgers Sr. more time, I feel like I'm going to put Ja'Cory Bennett in that position. And I feel like he can have himself a pretty decent rookie year.
Is that another athletic freak? I think it is.
It is.
I think it is
indeed. A very athletic draft. A very athletic draft that I'm loving. But yeah, this is not it, Landon. We're still going. Fifth round pick, 164. This is going to make Mike happy. How was he still on the board? I have no clue, but I picked him up. TCU very own linebacker D. Winters has been added to the Colts roster. And look, if y'all don't tell me I'm doing a good GM job, I call you crazy because this draft right now is loaded. I seen him available. I said, are you guys kidding me? There's no way he dropped this low. Being as though we just got rid of Bobby Okereke and let him walk for more money, put him in the roster. So I got linebacker D. Winters from TCU. Congratulations, you are Indianapolis Colts. But we're not done yet. Moving on to the seventh round, 223rd pick. Me and Landon seen this guy at the Reese's Senior Bowl and said, this dude's going to be special. He was having himself a Senior Bowl of his lifetime. It's like he knew he wanted to be there. And we mentioned Mo Ali Cox, right? So I got to thinking of observing at this list. I was like, okay, so if this doesn't work out, if I draft this guy and he's still in the roster, he could potentially take Mo Ali Cox's spot. Tight end from Purdue, Payne Durham was available on the board. So I was like, you know what? I've seen this guy in person. Put him on a roster. What do you think about that?
Hey, also, friend of the show, very nice
Yes,
guy.
absolutely.
Yeah, super nice guy. Very large human, by the way.
Very large.
Yeah, not a small guy, and he did do his thing at the Senior Bowl. So shout out Payne Durham.
Yes. Another tight end you want on the board, especially if Mo Ali Cox just happened to make Mike angry, we can just slide Payne Dorman in that role, and you got yourself a certified first down target. So shout out to Payne Dorm. You are an Indianapolis Colt. Now, with all being said, the last pick of the draft, right? We're all done. There's nobody really available. This is just a rare unicorn gem draft pick. Tom Brady was selected this late in the draft. And I got to thinking, right? You got Mike Strachan on the roster. You just got rid of Patman. And you're like, okay, worst case scenario, one of these wide receivers happen to go down. What would you want to do in your shoes? Who would you want to put in? So I got me another wide receiver. And you won't believe who was on this roster. Friend of the show. He said, if me and Alec Pierce happen to team up, that'll be a dream come true. So with the last pick of the draft for the Indianapolis Colts, 7th round, 238th pick, I selected Cincy's very own Trey Tucker. What a weird scenario this happens to be. So now we got 3 Cincinnati wide receivers on the roster with a CJ Stroud, with a DeJuan Jones, with a Quentin Nelson, and a Shane Steichen offense. And then you're moving Braden Smith to right guard. I don't know about y'all, but if I see the Jaguars or if I even see the Texans, we win in at least two, or 1 or 2 of them games next year. No questions, if, ands, or buts. I feel like this is one of the best drafts I could have ever done in my life. But I feel like with this roster and this draft, I feel like this team can go very far in the future with a little bit of development, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of continuity. All of these things, you got yourself a nice Colts roster moving forward. And that is the end of me playing GM for the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow.
That is a lot of speed, by the way. That's like you put Alec Pierce, Tyler Scott,
Yes.
and Trey Tucker on the field at the same time. That's a lot of speed.
A lot of speed, man. Sounds like the type of offense I want to run. Well, Mike, I would love to hear what you got to say.
We all love PFF Draft Simulator. So obviously love the 2 wide receiver picks. Love that. I mean, if I didn't like Paris Campbell, I wouldn't have brought him back and just said, you know what, let's just draft guys and let's add more in. Already adding those 2 wide receivers to the room is already solid. Now you're actually finally saying, hey, we're not going to bank on Paris Campbell being wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. You're actually proving it. So get more youth, get more athleticism. Tyler Scott, Trey Tucker, I would say, like we were talking about in the chat earlier today, these guys I feel are more polished coming out of college than Paris Campbell was. And due to unfortunate circumstances and terrible luck, Paris Campbell's not where he needs to be 4 years into the league. All he's known is rehab. This is the first offseason where he can really, truly work on his game. So having him back and then bringing Trey Tucker's Tyler Scott, that's awesome. Like the Yaya pick. I always like defensive line picks. Always going to love them. Even though it wasn't Felix Onudike Uzama or Will McDonald, got love for my Big 12 guys. It's still a good pick. CJ Stroud, we'll have all off season. We'll have the next 2 months to talk about CJ Stroud because he's my QB1. But love the pick. Love it all. Love it all. The free agent signings were awesome. Kenny Moore still on the roster. That's like questionable to me. Maybe not as questionable as my JT trade, but still on the roster. Not necessarily the greatest fit in Gus Bradley's defense, but you got a leader coming back, still long arm corner who can still make plays, still keeps continuity in the secondary room. Hey, man, things are looking up in Indy.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. That's one of the main goals I had this whole GM session was trying to keep continuity within the locker room because whenever you get a new regime or a new head coach, you want to keep the roster intact. You don't want to blow the whole thing up because even though you're starting from scratch trying to find a franchise quarterback, you still want to have those guys that had a good year on the roster still. You don't want to get rid of them just yet. So that's what I really tried to go for, and that's the reason why I took a leap of faith out there with Mo Ali Cox still being there and not being traded, and Kenny Moore still being not being traded because I feel like continuity plays a long way. And then me drafting Ja'Cory Bennett, I think he can learn a lot from Kenny Moore, especially Kenny Moore being undersized, taking a risk playing key wide receivers and just being athletic himself. Drafting another athletic talent can go a long way. So that's what I try to look for. Plus, I can't get Lock in, so I have to keep Kenny.
Hey, no, that was interesting though. Corner wasn't like you just said. So that's interesting, man. That's interesting. I like it though. It's a risk, but I like it. That's part of it, being a GM. You take risks, right? We all took them in our side. So other than that, man, can't necessarily say what is just a quarterback pick. That's the best thing of this whole thing, the quarterback pick. Obviously, me and Landon went Anthony, but for CJ Stroud, that's the dream pick there at 4. That's the dream pick. So
Yeah, he looked so comfortable playing Lucas Oil in the combat. I was like, you know what? Just give him a jersey. Just keep him
yeah,
out there.
yeah.
just run it. Just
I
run
mean,
it with
CJ
CJ.
Stroud feels more of a for sure thing as to where Anthony, you really have just questions because you know if he hits his ceiling, he'll be the best quarterback. But when you look at the floor of each quarterback, I mean, Anthony has the lowest floor and also the highest ceiling. CJ, I feel, has the highest floor. So that's interesting. Taking the guy who you feel is going to work out more. I don't blame that at all. A guy who moves very well in the pocket, extremely accurate, and can also build a great rapport with Michael Pittman Jr. So I love it. Hey, I'm the biggest Michael Pittman Jr. fan there is. Okay, I want that man to finally have a quarterback. Okay, finally. So I like the CJ Stroud pick more than anything. Just the quarterback, as long as you got the quarterback. So I'm down with that, man. I'm down with that. Now, Landon, did you have anything else on this?
Nah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought he had very a very clear direction he was going with. He stuck with that direction. A lot of speed, a lot of offense, a lot of stretching the field, protecting your quarterback, allowing CJ Stroud to hit those deep shots down the field. And then, of course, Jonathan Taylor, and then bringing in some help along the defensive line with the 2 edge rushers, and then drafting another edge rusher. Yeah, I mean, I thought he did a great job, and I thought the points he made were very, like I said, very clear and concise, and he he nailed it.
So before we get out of here, okay, we haven't had a chance to talk about this on air. We were talking about it a little bit before we hit record. But there is a topic going on. There is a man in the AFC that looks like he could be going to a new team because some questionable things are going on in the NFL right now, and that's Lamar Jackson. Okay, obviously, Landon and I, we didn't have this information when we went our rounds. We also didn't expect Marcus to go after it, but this is a conversation that definitely should be taking place in our fan base, and most importantly, in the front office in Indianapolis. Now, that this is where I get into, what does the team feel is best? In terms of Chris Ballard is now entering in a new era, new quarterback. You're going to have a new quarterback regardless. You got the new head coach. What is your plan? What is your 5-year plan, 5-year plan of building this team? Should Lamar Jackson be under heavy consideration from the Indianapolis Colts? Should they seriously entertain getting Lamar Jackson? Landon, you're first.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think every team, you're talking about one of the top 7 quarterbacks in the NFL. And those guys don't ever become available until, unless it's like generally at the end of their careers, not at 26 years old. So, yeah, I mean, I think every team outside of, like I said, about 7 teams should be having that conversation, which obviously we know they aren't. We don't know what's really going on there. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, the Colts, they should have the conversation. Now, I don't anticipate the move happening to the Colts. Personally, I think he still stays in Baltimore. But I mean, it's really just something that you have to weigh. Where it's not even about the draft picks to me, because you're talking about 2 first-round picks. If you want to move up to 1, you're probably offering that to 1 to go up and get an unproven guy, much less an MVP that's only 26 years old. To me, it's really all about the contract. And with Indy only having 13 million, like I said, they can release Matt Ryan, they can release Nick Foles. That frees up another 19 million. You're still going to be under where he wants. You're going to need every bit of, 45, 50, even maybe a little bit above that. Aaron Rodgers, I think, has the highest contract at 50 million per year. So you're probably going to need to be somewhere between 44 to 50 million a year. And with the way this Colts roster is set up, it's just going to be extremely hard to make that type of contract happen. And the biggest question too is, we've seen the last 2 years, the injuries start to pile up. So, that's another thing you have to look at. So not only is it the money, is it the injury history, but yeah, I mean, it should definitely be a conversation.
Yeah, I agree. It should be. I mean, when you're talking about Lamar, it's not just an average quarterback. This is one of those rare breeds. The unicorn of quarterbacks. He's a dual threat. He can do both. He can run and throw the football. And his throwing game gets criticized a lot just due to him running so much. But when you actually give him a chance to throw the football, and Colts fans seen that in person, he can actually throw it. And it's one of those guys you just will really risk it all and worth getting. So if there was a conversation being involved, and Baltimore calls, I'm picking up the phone. If I was the GM of the Colts, I pick it up. So like it's a no brainer when you talk about a guy like this, like Landon said, an MVP at 26, very young, still has a lot of talent, and he still hasn't even hit his ceiling in my opinion, because of all the rosters he's played on, they weren't even fully constructed. The defenses was very nice, but the offensive side, he was still lacking, because he could just do so much, and he's very mobile, that they felt like the need to not really go out there and try to get a high price wide receiver. But if you can imagine those type of things, if you would give him someone like a Michael Pittman Jr., a wide receiver with height, even though he had Mark Andrews at tight end, but if you can get him an actual system, a good offensive line, a good wide receiver group, and a good tight end core with the head coach to match that, I think he can really hit his ceiling. They can possibly win the Super Bowl, whatever roster he's on. So I would definitely entertain that for sure.
Yeah, when you really look at what this roster is right now, I mean, 2 things that really plagued this team this past year. First off was quarterback play. You would erase that by getting Lamar Jackson. And then offensive line play. Matt Pryor's not coming back, okay? That guy cost a lot of problems and got Matt Ryan hit a ton. He's not going to be back. You got Ryan Mann, who's not a sure thing yet, but he showed great stuff as a 3rd-round rookie. Great stuff. So he'll be your starter left tackle. And then you got Quentin Nelson. You got, I assume Ryan Kelly will be back at center. And what do you do at right guard? Could the Colts possibly do what Marcus did here? Can they find a really good right tackle prospect at 35 and slide Braden Smith inside? That offensive line already, you just fixed your 2 problems that hampered you the most. And guess what? Now you still got that strong defense behind you. Shaquille Leonard is coming back, and Yannick Ngakoue will probably be back. But then again, if Lamar Jackson is here, does that kind of take away from some money you can do with Yannick, EJ Speed, Chase McLaughlin, whatever the case may be? Again, if you wanted to make room, the moves that I made, especially including trading Jonathan Taylor, it opened up $56 million total in cap space. You would have to do that, but I don't see the Colts. Like, I would do it, right? That's what I did. Chris Ballard is not trading Jonathan Taylor. Let's be real about it. He's not going close to that. So for me, it just depends about what is your plan as a GM. What is your plan? Where do you see this going? Okay, do you want the rookie contract where you can build around and work around before you hand out that extension in 4 years? Or do you want to take the extension now and then give him the team that's currently constructed? Me personally, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I want either one. Whichever one we go with, I'm going to be extremely happy. I'm going to be extremely happy. I'll be happy as hell if we get Lamar Jackson. I'll be happy as hell if we stay put and draft CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson. That's where it should be. But these other teams that are coming out who clearly need quarterbacks, these other teams are coming out and saying, no, we're not interested. We're not interested. Like, so you're not interested in winning, basically. That's what you're saying when you say you don't want Lamar Jackson. It's also a little bit, there's a lot of talk about guaranteed money and everything. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with the money, sort of say. I don't think it necessarily has a lot to do with that. But then you really look at it, the same teams that are saying no to Lamar Jackson this year were saying yes to Deshaun Watson coming off of 30 civil lawsuits. Carolina, Atlanta, those two teams were racing to get Deshaun Watson fresh off of 30 civil lawsuits. And here is Lamar Jackson, who is a unanimous MVP, 26 years old, has been squeaky clean, is a face of a franchise, a fantastic leader, and you're coming out the next year saying, no, we don't want you. We're not interested. To me, that's not necessarily a good sign for organizations like Carolina and Atlanta, but for the Colts, yes, this should be under consideration. This should be heavily weighed. This should be heavily discussed. And, if they end up doing it, I'm happy. If they end up doing it, we should all be happy. If they don't end up doing it and they draft a CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson, we should be happy then as well. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting thing going on. It almost makes me think like, man, should we have done it differently? And Marcus went second and I wanted to be last, or Landon could be last. Could something be different? I think about it that way, but other than that, man, I will say, like, Landon, he probably stays in Baltimore. He probably does, but really, Baltimore's not in good hands right now. They are getting criticized by their own players. Like, this was never going on when Ozzie Newsome was running things. Now he takes a step back and everything goes to hell, it looks like. So I'm interested to see what happens of it. Ultimately, I think we all think, we all believe that Chris Ballard's just going to go into the draft and get his guy, get that rookie contract. But it is something interesting. Like, I will jump through the roof if I was that athletic. I would jump through the roof if we got Lamar Jackson. I mean, and he's also a guy who's progressed at quarterback. When he came into the league, man, you could run back episodes on this show. I was not the biggest believer in Lamar Jackson. He had problems. He was always run first. But then last year happened. And you saw this guy really improve in his passes, his mechanics, his accuracy got better, his throws got better, his throws outside the numbers got better. Like, he just progressed so much where now, if we get Lamar Jackson today, we are in the conversation of Super Bowl contender. Yes, that is a real thing. That is the conversation. Yeah. But if you get a rookie quarterback, that might be a few years down the line. But hey, in the ultimate win now league, I would take Lamar Jackson, but it just depends on what Chris Ballard and the staff and Shane Steichen want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think the Colts are further away than what people think they are. So I think even putting Lamar Jackson on the roster, I mean, like, yeah, they would be a really good team, but I still don't know if they're like Super Bowl contenders. That's a little much for me. But
would you believe they're AFC South favorites?
Yeah, I would put them like up there, like them in Jacksonville would probably be like even odds, I would say.
Yeah, because Jacksonville, they're they get a couple more pieces, Jacksonville's scary.
Well, I mean, like Calvin Ridley got.
Calvin Ridley's coming.
He's back. So, yeah, they're gonna be a good team.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Jacksonville, I know it's an AFC South Division rival, but hey, man, they did some good things. They weren't even looking at the playoffs, and then they go on this crazy run while Tennessee wet the bed. It went 0-7 at the last 7 games or something. So, and Jacksonville goes in, beats Dallas. I think it was like a pick 6 in overtime, and then they go in and beat other teams, and that was fun. But I am interested to see how this plays out. I don't believe Indy will get them, but it's always a good conversation. It's always a fun conversation when a prime top 5 quarterback is on the market. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what they'll prefer as well. Like, get the rookie contract in here. Let's plug in some other pieces and build the team. And, that's one of the benefits of having a rookie contract at that quarterback position. Like look at what LA, the Chargers just did. Justin Herbert's on his rookie contract, but they went out and got JC Jackson. They traded for Khalil Mack. They got all these gadgets and everything. And it didn't necessarily work out. Injuries had a lot to do with a lot of the problems there, but they tried to go all in. So it's a conversation for sure, guys. But other than that, Landon, Marcus, do we got anything else?
Nope, I don't have anything else. I'm pretty much all set.
Hey. Oh, my gosh. Landon, you're good?
Yep, all good. Like I said, Players Tournament, Players Championship this week. So we're watching some golf. We're not thinking about quarterbacks at the moment, just to kind of give myself a break. I need a mental break. So, I'm excited, though. Ready for free agency kicking off here soon. Ready to see the moves the Colts make, as far as cuts, who gets cut. Is Ryan Kelly going to be a Colt? Is he not going to be a Colt? There's a lot that can happen here within the next 7 days. So I'm excited either way. But, that's it for me.
Yeah, we got free agency in the next week, so there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. We still got draft stuff to talk about. Our other draft writer, Jack Goley, he'll be coming on the show with Landon, and they'll be talking draft stuff, especially quarterbacks, but other fun positions that could be needs for Indianapolis corner. Could you need get another development edge rusher in, like Landon took one, I took one, Marcus took one today, Yaya from Louisville. So there's a lot of fun prospects that those two are going to break down and talk about their fit with Indianapolis the rest of this next month, because it's coming fast. If you just think about the time when we were thankful the Colts season ended to now, time has gone by fast. It's gone by fast. So, guys, it's going to be a great ride. We are going live draft night, so just throwing that out there, draft night. We're going to go about live 30 minutes before, and we're going to have the 4th pick anyway, so we're going to be picking early, maybe earlier if we trade up. But other than that, just keep it in your minds. We're going live 30 minutes before the draft. We'll keep announcing that. We'll build that up and everything, and, of course, join us that day, all right? So other than that, Landon, Marcus, y'all are good. Thank you for this episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in, to everybody who tuned in, who commented, who engaged with this series. This is our first one. This was season 1 of this series, playing GM of the Indianapolis Colts. It was fun. Next year, I'm starting to think part 2 will be fun. Maybe we might have some special guests coming on playing GM of the Indianapolis Colts. So that's also going to be a fun time for next year. But, guys, thank you so much for all of you who tuned in with this series, guys. This was fun. Y'all got a little bit of Landon, what he thought, what I thought, what Marcus thought as well. So now, with all of that being done, next week we find out what the Colts and Chris Ballard are going to be doing. So other than that, guys, that'll do it for us. We will be back for you next weekend talking about free agent moves and, where could the Colts be looking? Have they in any news, basically, from Indianapolis? So other than that, we'll see you guys next week. Y'all have a blessed weekend, all right?